I believe that happiness, and everybody has their own work-life balance. This is a conversation of one. I have no interest in imposing my way of like working a lot because I love it. But I also have no interest in other people that are telling people like don't, when they may have different goals and ambitions. And so, I think we need to call it demonizing hard work, because I think when you go into workaholics or when you go into hustle, I think we've created terms that have become demonized, and that's fine. That's just the evolution of conversation. But in wrapping up this audio that's gonna start this blog post, I just want everybody who reads this to say, look, I do not think I'm right. I do not have that audacity. I share what works for me. It may or may not work for others. I feel like if you go read Crush It in 2008-9, I've been very consistent, which is take advantage of this ridiculous opportunity, but make yourself happy. I've talked about selling Smurf stuff for $80,000 a year. Like, it's not about being a trillionaire and all this, So I think entitlement is what led to a lot of people burning out, because they weren't in a position where they were living in merit, and now that they're startup founders, they're burning out because they're not good at it. This is not about how many hours they put in. They're not good at it. And so, nonetheless, it's a very touchy subject that I'm passionate about. But I do think work ethic matters. I think it's very hard to succeed without putting in the time against a competitive set of other people that are willing to put in the time. But I do think happiness trumps everything, and I think people need to be self-aware of what makes them tick, not how I did it or how somebody in Denmark's telling them to how to do it.
I think a big reason why people push against that is because in culture and blog posts you see like the regrets of older people, and most people are like, oh, I wish I didn't work as hard.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I didn't spend as much time with
Yeah.
business. Like,
Yeah.
What would you say to that? It comes out of self-awareness.
It comes out of self-awareness. I totally respect that, and I think a lot of people have that. I also think that if those people listen to me and to the nuances that I'm trying to communicate, what they might have done is created a side hustle and created an income around something that made them happy, and instead of, doing something they didn't like and did it for the money, they would have done it for happiness. Like I think the people that we talk about didn't have the internet. We talk about an 80-year-old, they didn't have options. There was not what I believe in now, which is side hustles into actual businesses, is a practical 11-year play. And as a matter of fact, I think we should write an article called that, Side Hustles Turning into Actual Incomes and Businesses Over a Decade is Practical. Like that's what I'm saying. Take your 2 hours a night and start your baseball card business, and start your Lord of the Rings podcast, and start your Instagram account, and work for a decade around your favorite thing. Dude, I flew all across the country on Sunday, like did a ton of work, had a short weekend, had a crazy week before, landed and did sports cards for 4.5 hours. Forced myself to go to sleep because I couldn't get enough of looking up on eBay, collecting data on a strategy to deploy investment. I value the gray and the intuitive, not just the numbers, in a way that most don't, because it's not teachable, it's my talent, so I lean in on it. Right?
Yeah.
I also lead with humility and confidence, and those are two very interesting things. When you lead with humility, you might have not hired somebody for the right spot at first. So I feel like it's my response. I mean when I say I work for 1,000 people, not they work for me. So it's my job to figure them out, that maybe their manager and them don't have good dynamics. Maybe they're not as good at that skill set, but if I get to know them, like, but you're super creative. Like there's a kid in, like Tyler's like, hey, this kid in media should be the writer for sports betting on one, that's probably gonna happen. you know?
Yeah, I think like,
I take on, I feel like I take on a sense of responsibility to people choosing to work at my company. And I feel a sense of responsibility that I don't think most people feel. I think people feel like it's transactional.
Like most businesses feel like that if you work for them, like they're giving you something, like they're...
And you're giving them something, you're giving them money. Here you go.
Yeah.
It's transactional.
Right.
I'm not transactional. I almost manage like brand, right? It's an interesting theme, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I manage in the same way I build brand. It's in perpetuity.
Yeah.
And when things are in perpetuity, you care about how something ends in the short term. most people view you, Jason, working here, like when he quits and tries to go, Babin's gonna go try to do something else. Like sometimes people leave, other times we let people go. Like, I think people think that's the end. I think it's a chapter.
Has there been a time when you fired someone or let someone go, and over time that relationship has been valuable for you, like in a business sense?
Of course.
Like what? Can you talk about a time when that's happened?
Probably not without putting somebody on blast, and it's really funny. I'm even struggling right now to come up with it, but the answer is of course. Let's see. Time where somebody fired, they weren't super, who's been not super pumped with me, but then it's worked out. It's real, and you know where it's really real? Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes.
What do you mean by that?
They may not tell me, and they may not make it obvious to me, but after they're over the hurt, and now they've tasted other places, I mean, this happens for real. There's one I can think of that I'm not gonna put out there where they didn't agree with the way it went down. They went on to go work on the brand side. And on the second place that they worked at, they gave us a cosign of you should work with Vayner. And it was predicated on the good stuff.
Yeah.
It's called reputation. Reputation management.
Yeah.
Like I care about it. Because my intent's right, and I also know things are circumstantial. Both of you already liked and disliked things in this job on the delta of, I mean, there's people here that are happy as fuck that 2 years ago were like 1 day away from quitting. And there's people that loved it for 6 years and the last 3 months have been dog shit and are out. It ebbs and flows. Circumstances, right? Jim could have come in and been a terrible guy and been like, I'm the elder statesman, you're all idiots, and I've been busy and traveling for 3 weeks, and Andy decided to let it play a little bit, and that may have led you to quit. Because we, even though we're starting to get closer, just weren't far enough that you didn't say, okay, this is like the normal world, here comes some older dude, and now I'm not gonna be able to do my shit, and got it?
Yeah.
And you didn't have the confidence, or I didn't create the safety for you to come in and talk about it. You have the benefit of sitting right here. You guys know me, they don't. I'm a contradiction. Let's start with that. Right? I'm super let everybody do anything and I micromanage the small, right?
Yeah.
Right? I think, weirdly, I might be the most, I'm in the 1%, I feel confident about saying that, of people that can actually hold the contradictory of trying to build a huge business and care about people more than that. But like 50, I don't even know if it's 51.49, it might be 50.1, 40. The reason I do that is because I care more about a person in the world running around saying who I am as a man than the profitability of my company. It's not, all these choices are binary. Either I care more about the money, or I care more about how I feel about myself, my reputation, and how that person that gave me their trust in working for me feel about me. I choose the latter. Most people don't.
Why do you think they struggle with that? Why do you think most leaders struggle with firing?
Because I think most people care about money and are selfish and actually genuinely don't care about other people.
That affects how they see
the whole thing.
Yeah.
The reason I try to put people on when they get fired, the reason why I'm willing to let them control the narrative so they're not embarrassed with friends in the office, the reason I give them as much of a head start as I can, whenever I can, so that they're not blindsided, is because I care about them.